hate crime is where the victim has been targeted because of a personal characteristic. For example, the offender has a prejudice towards them. So in our case, they have a prejudice against someone who has a disability, and the individual is targeted specifically because of that prejudice. And they're targeted for something about them they can't change. So it's something that's part of them, and they're picked on for that reason. Reporting of disability hate crime is on the rise throughout the UK. That can be for a number of reasons. The first one is more hate crimes happening, and therefore, as there's a proportion of hate crimes are reported, that proportion will increase. Now, we know that 70 to 80% of disability hate crimes aren't reported throughout the UK. So seeing a trend of increasing reporting, if you're basing on more is happening, that's a worrying trend. However, you can look at it from another side. You can say, well, actually, people are becoming more aware that disability hate crime is something that they should be reporting, that it's something the police are interested in dealing with. It is an offence to target someone because they are disabled. So if people are getting more confident in the mechanisms that are out there to support them, as a natural consequence, reportings will increase. I think it's a combination of both. I wouldn't lay my hat on either side, but certainly, yes, there is more confidence in reporting. The disabled community is getting a louder voice. We're speaking out more about what's happening to us. And as well as that, there's online mechanisms for reporting, so perhaps it's more accessible for individuals to make those reports, whether that be to police, social media companies, or potentially through an advocate like myself as a third-party reporting mechanism. Whilst we have an increased level of reporting, it's well recognised that charges for people who commit the offences and are detected for doing so, and even less people then are prosecuted successfully through the court. That sits a lot around the gathering of evidence, and the burden of proof in United Kingdom court systems is beyond all reasonable doubt. That quite simply means if one person says another person does something against them, it's one person's word against the other, and it doesn't meet the evidential threshold. And unfortunately, that's what happens in a lot of these cases, because the people who commit these offences are so cowardly. They do it in the dark of night. They do it when no one can see them do it. And they do it in such a way that it's very hard to prove who did it. They're clever in doing that. Of course, in a lot of cases, a lot of people who experience disability hate crime aren't looking for a judicial outcome. They simply want to be left alone. I want to live my life. Just leave me alone and stop picking on me. And when that happens, they actually see that as a successful outcome for them as well. No individual is born hating. No one's born with that prejudice that says, I hate a disabled person. It's learned. And therefore, if it's learned, education can then challenge that. So people will think twice before they post the offensive words, before they engage in hurtful and damaging acts against disabled people.
Sad and angry inside. I hated it, really hated it. All because I have autism, and the way I was, they're picking on me and laughing at me, and there's a lot of cowards about, and they were coward what they did to me, and I didn't like it.
No.
I suffered with it for 2 years. 2 years I suffered with it. I was bullied at the museum, and I was bullied at college as well. They were throwing margarine at me and laughing and making fun of me. I was in tears. And it's not nice to bully them because they have a disability, and it's not nice at all, and it's not fair on me or all my friends, and I have to suffer through it all, and it's not fair.
No.
And then I said to my friends, you must report it to stop this thing from happening again. And I want to be safe and do the things all the activities I like and all the things I can do.
I couldn't really understand what was going on, and they had a massive argument. So I could hear the argument going on, and I heard a lot of things that I hadn't really wanted to hear, and I didn't actually know how to handle it. But I was really quite shocked, so I just avoided her, didn't we? But that was just the first thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the first thing.
She would just approach Jamie every time I wasn't there when she wasn't happy with something. If my wheelie bin wasn't in the right place, she would have a go at you and make you move it. And the poor lad didn't know what to do, and he got a bit scared being in the house on his own, didn't he? He didn't like it. So I had to make sure I was home every time that he was getting home, because she just was a bit endless going on, wasn't she? And I don't think she dared do it to me, so she did it to him instead. I just kept calling the police, and she still couldn't quite work it out because she didn't think she was doing anything wrong, did she? How long did it go on for? A long time. Yeah. She'd say even stuff to my daughter when she came, didn't she?
Kids.
My grandkids. So it just got to a point where you wouldn't be in the house or go out the house, would you? When she was outside, I didn't actually realise that it was a hate crime, or they were, that they were in that kind of trouble. I didn't realise it was that serious until the police came round. And I didn't want to cause any big problems. I just wanted her to leave him be and stop doing it, The atmosphere was just horrendous. It's really difficult to live next to somebody who doesn't like your child, because they've got a disability. And it really, really affected us, didn't it?
Yeah.
Even my daughter, because my daughter didn't want him getting the buses anywhere because she was scared in case anyone was mean to him. So it's not just us, was it? It was everyone, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We moved in the end. It was because it was just affecting both of us that much, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We didn't want to spend the rest of our time being around somebody like that. So.
I know that it's a frightening experience for everybody that I have come into contact with that have experienced it and what I've seen. People do have a right to live in the community, in their own community, and be free from living in fear of this, because what happens is when that individual is living in fear, they will become more isolated, and becoming more isolated and being in fear of going out in their local community, they become more at risk. And they become more at risk because they are frightened to come forward and go out. That also in turn will cause mental health issues potentially for that individual as well, around anxiety and distress. I do know family members that have been diagnosed with mental health issues around anxiety and depression, not understanding why their child has been targeted just because they've got a learning disability or a physical disability in some way. The other thing as well we've got to remember around disability hate crime is name calling doesn't stay name calling for very often, and it quickly will escalate, and it will escalate from that one name calling and mimicking to right up to physical assault. So what's really important is we really need to get it at that early stage, and I can't emphasize enough is around reporting that, however insignificant, or I remember one mum saying to me, well, that always happens when I get on that bus. Well, it's about working with that mum and saying that's not right and we need to report it, and you shouldn't have to think it always happens when I get on the bus, because it shouldn't happen. Please do not be an active bystander. Please, if you see it happening, please report it.
as soon as you start to feel uncomfortable with something that's happening that you feel is directed towards you, whether that be name calling, your bins or your plant pots being moved, or that type of very annoying things, seek support as early as you can. Speak to your friends, speak to your neighbours and say, this is happening to me. I think it's happening to me because I have a disability. Speak to the police.
It's 2020 now. We need to stop hate crime and put it right. Stop it and stamp it out.